Hi, Julie.
Hi, how are you?
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you too.
Yeah, it's a good start to the year. The New
Mm,
World Symphony. Thank you.
you chose it.
Yeah, I can hear it very clearly.
Amazing. Welcome, everybody. That was Shafiq's choice, and very beautiful too. Thank you, Shafiq.
Thank you.
Um, you're going to tell us all about Elon Musk.
Yes, in fact, before we start on that, thank you, Julie, for the New World Symphony. It's a good start to our new year. Season's greeting to everybody and to for the new year as well. We are going to have a better world. That's the message that I want to convey today because there are so many things that are in the horizon that we can all expect to come about sooner or later. Let me just do some, loud thinking. Let me start off by, a comment that I came across recently from a rabbi, which, when asked about Judaism, it said it's the golden rule, and the rest is all scripture or commentary, rather. That is very telling. And that message of the golden rule, which we all know, of course, has to do with doing unto others what you would have them do to you. I mean, such a very clear message, and I think very appropriate for all time. Now, thousands of years later, when Jesus came, he talked about love and, of course, salvation as well. But love is the primary message that we all carry. And over Christmas, we saw that, a lot of charities and so on. Then 600 years later, Muhammad came with another message, and that message is about justice, central to the Islamic sort of notion of delivering social sort of needs, and also the guardianship of the world. Now, why do I say guardianship? Because it is man who's made responsible from time immemorial, and especially recently, we know we can influence the environment and our own well-being of the future. So this guardianship is something very, very important, and that can be delivered through justice on the social front. And of course, the solutions that mankind is going to be coming up has got to be delivered by mankind themselves. And the solution in particular with the problems that we are being faced with have to do of such mammoth proportion that we single-handedly can't do it. So we have to rely on science and technology to deliver solutions. And my theme of the talks has always been to look at the larger picture and also talk about how this thing can be delivered. And one of the people that I will be talking about, somebody who I think will go down in history as quite a important figure, somebody who's not only having a big vision, uh, but also is able to deliver on that vision. Now, in history, there are not too many people of that type of make, if you like. He's willing to put his money where his mouth is. And of course, that vision is something that I subscribe to very much, along with a number of millions of other people who are now sort of, if you like, understanding what he's talking about. And what he's talking about, of course, is what we will talk about in this class today, or we'll talk today. So we have, in fact, a society in general, again, who's now sort of really providing opportunities for all sorts of people. And they take up these opportunities to make money. That seems to be the goal of most of the people trying to do this. And we see this in the case of the richest man in the world today, Bezos, of Amazon, pandering to our needs of wanting more and more and whatever. Essentially, from his perspective, not solving the problem, maybe a little convenience he solves, but not solving the problem. And he's making money, big money out of this. Another bad egg of that type is, of course, Branson as well, who wants to seek an opportunity and make big bucks out of it. But Elon is of a different type of character. He is doing something to solve the big problems of the world. And when I talk about the big problems, I'll just mention a few just to get us started. One is energy. Now, the basis of all our civilization, to a large extent, as far as our consumption is concerned, is energy. And energy has been, in many ways, rewarding. We had the steam, the coal, the steam, and the electricity, and now we need to have something which is a bit enduring, in the sense that it's not going to be damaging the world. So energy is one thing that we're going to be looking at, and how Elon Musk is going to be delivering that. The other thing is, of course, we have as a species, we need to safeguard not only at the global level, but at the interplanetary level. Which, by that, what I mean is that we've got to safeguard, have an insurance that we are not going to sort of be finished off because of some accidental sort of decision by some mad politician pressing the button, or having an asteroid hitting our Earth or whatever. So what we want is an alternate plan B, and that is what Elon Musk is also planning to deliver. So on two counts. One, fundamental to this are energy, which is going to impact our Earth in climate, preserve the sort of environment, preserve the species and so on Earth, and then take us beyond the Earth as well, to Mars. That's what his aim is. I'll talk more about that later. And the third thing of the vision that he has is, of course, to do with communication, global communication. I know we have internet, but the internet is not accessible to half the world. And the companies who are providing us the ability to have access are, again, people like Branson, like Virgin and all that, they make big bucks out of it, very unsatisfactory service. And in fact, most of the service providers are very, very sort of, to my mind, unsatisfactory, because their goal is to make money and not to sort of deliver a service which is to do with improving even the poorest of people and the most remote of people having access. We haven't reached that. So this Elon Musk project, which is an Earth orbiting internet type of project that he's going to be delivering by the name of Starlink. I'll be talking about that, because that connects not just the big cities and the richer countries, in a better way, but the poor countries. Even if you're sitting in central Congo, if you have a dish and a little computer, that's it. That's all you need. And that will be able to access and connect to the whole world. So you can see how important it is, from uplifting the very poor from wherever they are, to sort of giving themselves justice in this world. So three visions, and I'll talk about some other projects of his as well. But to start us off, these are the three things that I want you to remember. The energy, absolutely essential, crucial to our survivability, but survivability which is sustainable, which means that it shouldn't be polluting, like all the carbon sort of that we emit from the fossil fuels. We want to get rid of that. So this is where Elon Musk comes in. So let's get into that. And If Jilly can get me into my, where is it? I have to get into my screen mode. Well, I wonder if I am.
Everybody's human.
Okay.
Nobody doubted about
uh,
you. You know so much.
I'm going to share the screen. Here we go. Can you see the screen now?
Yes.
Okay, let's get started. Sorry about all that. Yeah. Okay. Now back to what is the game? When I talk about the game changing, the game is really life on Earth, which is being threatened by the climate change. And of course, all the depletion of the Earth's resources. What we have is poverty, health, and etc. So the game is that. And we need to have somebody going to make the change. We talked about the historical prophecies, this, that, or the other, and the messages that received. It was all about having to preserve life. Now, in the case of the current sort of context that we're talking about, is of course delivering a solution through technology and the science. And the man that we're going to be talking about is, of course, Musk. I'm going to rush through it because we lost a little bit of time. I'll simply look at his family and show you a few pictures of his family and so on, and then talk a little bit more about the sustainable energy that I mentioned earlier on, the Teslas, the batteries, the solar homes, the transport buses, and so on that he's working on. And of course, the Starlink, which I already mentioned, the SpaceX, the reusable thing there to make us into an interplanetary species. And of course, the neural link, which has to do with AI and mental and physical well-being of the people. And of course, I'm going to also see how he's actually delivering it in terms of the factories that he's building in USA, China, Germany, and soon in India, Indonesia, and Japan. And of course, how the stock market has responded to this. And believe it or not, I mean, anybody who's had a share of Tesla, maybe even one share of a few $100s, would have been, made a fair bit of money. So I'm going to sort of go on to my next one. Just see, this is the problem that we are facing. The problem, of course, is to do with the immense type of horrendous problems that we have. And these problems are something that no individuals can handle except with the help of science and so on. Now, this drought is all over the place on the earth, which is resulted from this climate change. So we've got fires, we heard about that in Australia, and then the hurricanes, in other places, and then pollution, of course, of this magnitude. And this carbon means surface temperatures are going up quite dramatically, as you can see. Now, this is where some concerted action is required. And on the political side, we are finding that it's not really sort of going very far ahead. So we have to resort to some technological solution very quickly. Now, this is the flooding, of course, the weather patterns changing, and the storms, and of course, the icing. So really a global picture of calamity facing us if we don't do something. Look at the ice, so Antarctica is melting, it's becoming smaller and smaller, the island there. And if this change is not arrested, what we're going to be seeing is, if you look at this US type of map here, nice and green down here, trees and lots of life here, moose and the birds. And with the decrease of temperature, what's going to happen is that this is going to become drought. Life forms are going to be disappearing. Bird life is going to disappear to a large extent as well. Vegetation as well. So really quite a bleak picture for us to look at as a disaster. Now, one thing that we can see a clue as to what a concerted action can do for us is, if you look at this here, this is New York, and this was the condition taken from space about the actual March figure when traffic was flowing fully before the lockdown. And thereafter, in March, we have, in fact, a lockdown, and then, of course, all the pollution and everything disappeared, as you can see here. Same thing with China. This is China here, and then China some months later, once the lockdown had been implemented. And this is northern Italy, and now Italy over here. So really, you can see a very significant change to our environment happening if we take some concerted action. And actually, we don't want to take a lockdown action as the solution, but it just goes to show that if we can do something together, it does work. Now, if we don't sort of do anything that is to keep the increase to less than 2 degrees, it's going to be disaster, because if we don't take aggressive action, then we're going to be heading towards 6 degrees, and that means really most of the species will be dead. So we need to do something to hold the climate down to below 2 degrees. Yeah, again, some more sort of thing. This is the increase in carbon levels. You see, those who want to see proof, evidence of the damage, we can see here. You see this, the graph is saying very clearly it has increased enormously. So this is the thing, with 2 degrees, here we got these things here. There's a bit of vegetation, and if it goes beyond 2 degrees, then this life form that we've got over here, see, at 2 degrees, we've got this, and something which is going to be a bit more, that means our life thing is going to be disappearing over there. Okay, let me just, that was just a very, very sort of glancing type of view, just to highlight the problems that we are facing are very real. We need to do something about it. Science and technology is going to step in, and we need to have somebody who can deliver on that front, because I don't trust these politicians too much at all. We've seen the ineptness of the government, and of course, Trump is a story of his own. Now, this is a family that we're going to be sort of looking at least him. So what we have is here, his mother, who's the Canadian, which gave him the opportunity to leave South Africa and then come and do his education in Canada, and thereafter go to USA and get his degrees in engineering and physics. That's the father, whom he doesn't think very well of, because he thinks of him as a very evil person, and he's a bounder with some criminal records as well. That's his mother as a model, still modeling at that age. His wife, he's got 3 children, and the children that he's had is, one is the normal delivery, the other one, 2 twins are in vitro, and I think there's another one tripleted in vitro as well. So these are his children here. And that's how he got started with his technological impact on the world. He brought in PayPal with his brother, sold it to for big money, and then started to use that money to pursue his goals of space travel and of energy. So essentially, born in 71, South African, Canadian American business magnate, investor, engineer in Meta. He's a founder of course, the SpaceX. We'll talk more about that later, and of Tesla, and of Solar City. We'll talk about the clean energy homes as well. Now, Tesla is valued at over 600 billion. Now, 600 billion is a pretty big number, and it in fact is valued at more than all the other motor car companies in the world, including Toyota and all the rest. So you can see, even though he's not producing the same number of cars, I think this year he's going to be delivering about 500,000, but next year it'll probably be 1 or 2 million and so on. So he's preparing for that. So his company is valued enormously of this nature. And he's far ahead in technology as far as all the other companies are concerned in terms of automotive industries. His own sort of stake has increased enormously since last year. He's become the second richest after Bezos of Amazon. And of course, these two characters are very different. Bezos is after money, and Elon is after fulfilling his vision. So there we are. Very quick thing there. These are all the projects that he's engaged in. As if one project is not sufficient, he's got these grand vision, the SpaceX, and then of course Tesla. We'll talk more about it. He's got this boring company which has to do with tunneling and having roads underground and so on. And of course AI and Neuralink had to do with, having the probes into our mind, because he feels that, sooner or later AI is becoming such a big sort of influence in our lives. We don't want the robots to take all the decisions themselves. We need to be able to compete with them. And to that extent, he wants his neural link to be able to have the capacity in our brain to have a direct connection with the outside features of AI that we can utilize. Now, this is a bit more detail about the individual space things there. Now, what he's going to be doing is, as far as SpaceX is concerned, the significant thing about SpaceX is it's a private company. It's not NASA or any of the government type of effort. Now, a private company to go into such humongously big area as rockets and so on means that you've got to have some very, very clear ideas as what you want to do. Now, the way he wanted to look at it is to make these rockets, which were just one-shot affairs, into reusable rockets. It's a bit like this. You know, if you made a plane which was just for one use, it wouldn't be sort of really popular, because after the one trip, and that's the end of it, we wouldn't be able to afford it because technology costs a lot. So he went in for reusable rockets, which is why we are seeing now some of the spin-offs from that. So it's low priced worldwide. He's bringing in communication because his rockets are going to be launching the satellites, which are going to help communication. So that's basically a very important part of this whole vision that he has. Now, as far as the energy question is concerned, he is talking about automobiles, because transport and the home use of energy and in factories and so on is the one that builds all the products for us. So he wants to do something on that front by creating the type of automobiles that don't use fossil fuels, like petrol, oil, whatever. He wants to be able to use solar to be able to store it in batteries and use it. And that means all the transport can be supplied that way. And that energy also can be, in fact, captured from your solar roofs and be able to store it in batteries and use it at home as well. So you can see, energy is very much the basis of this Tesla success. These I'll skip for the moment because these are the boring companies. I'll talk to you at another time. It's really connecting cities underground because we've got so much traffic, and there's ways of doing it, which I'll just mention as we go along. OpenAI, of course, this has to do with whether we can sort of still keep control of AI, or is AI going to take control of us? So really, this is the way that we are going to be handling AI, neural link. Okay, now since I've just mentioned it very quickly, this again summary of what I've just said. Automobiles has boomed in 2020. This is the year, last year, that really made the difference to Tesla. It has gone, really from being just a trial and error type of thing, and maybe doubtful that people will really be able to use that in a big way. Now it has really proved itself, and it is going in a big way. And by sort of, sending the rockets up to our International Space Station, he has also proven that the reusable rockets can do that. So he's used the same rocket as to carry the loads to the ISS, which is the International Space Station, and even taken the two astronauts to the International Space Station and brought them back in reusable rockets, And the reusable rockets means that you are able to sort of cut down the cost by a factor of, 100. So that makes it very affordable. And that also makes it affordable for you to put satellites to give you the communication that you need to connect to the whole world. Now, the connectivity that we have of internet is to, satellites in some way, but it's geocentric. The latency is very high, and it's not very workable. So what we have is landlines and the cables and so on that gives us, and that limits the spread of the internet. So the telephone companies essentially are providing this the world over through their telephone network. Now, what we want to do is to get away from the physical network into a space thing where you can directly sort of hook up to the satellite and be able to have the signals come down into your computer. So energy, of course, I told you about trying to store it from solar cells into batteries. Now, he's got this transportation called Hyperloop. This is a way of connecting cities with a tube which is hollowed out, which is vacuum sort of really reduced in pressure. And you can send these, maglev type of entities through it at very, very high speeds to the 500, to close to the speed of sound. And of course, the tunneling that he's going to be doing for that, this AI, I think we'll talk about that, healthcare, we'll talk about that. Okay, SpaceX, he's got the thing happening already in USA. It was founded by him not too long ago, but 18 years ago. And his first attempt to, in fact, try and get into this area was to go to Russia and to see whether he could buy an ICBM from them. Of course, they were willing to sell him, but at a huge price. So he said, no, don't thank you. I don't want your ICBMs like that. I'm going to go and do the same thing myself. And he came back and started this SpaceX and developed it. And he was at the point of, in fact, going bankrupt. Because, just to recap a little bit about where he had the money to be able to start that, as a school child, he sort of developed computer games. Thereafter, when he came to USA, he set up something called Zip2, which is a compressing type of software for files. So this was picked up by Compaq, and they paid him lots of money for that. Then he used that money to go for PayPal. PayPal is the type of service for payments of whatever you buy. Like I use it enormously. I just have to specify my credit card details on it, and then just go to PayPal, and they do the payment, and they charge me a cent or two for the transaction. And he sold that to eBay and made a lot of money, and used that money to buy into this rocket type of area. And then, of course, he nearly lost all his, he had about 100 million or whatever. He nearly lost all of it. And he was really at the point of bankruptcy when the last trial that he was engaged in to shoot the rocket up succeeded. And thereafter, immediately, NASA gave him a contract. And of course, from then on, it's history. Now, this is just to show you a little picture of what type of rockets he's producing. You've got these rockets here. Just follow these rockets are reusable rockets. And I'll show you how they do that. Follow this blue line here and this blue line here. What it means is this: when the rocket goes up, the two boosters on the side, they come down here, see? And then they carries on. And then finally, the last booster comes back again as well, giving the payload to the orbit here. So you can see these things coming back in these pads here. And in the sea, also he's got a pad which can be landed without having to jeopardize any of the land areas. So it's a very simple explanation. You can look at it at your own time, the details there. Here's a picture of these two rockets coming back. It was quite a sight to behold when we first saw that, when they had put the satellite up and they came back and landed on the base here. And the final one was on the sea here. These are the type of rockets. There's the booster here, and the other part, and this is the part that I'll be talking about, which is called a Starship. And this is the arm that goes and attaches to the space station once you've taken the rockets up to the space station. Now, what's a Starship? The Starship is one which is much bigger than the ones that he's been developing. It's still in trial phase, and it can carry over 100 tons, I think even more so. It serves as large type of thing for space, carrying passengers or cargo to Earth, orbit, planetary destinations, and between destinations on Earth. Now you can see that this is the same principle. It sort of lifts off, the boosters are there, and then in the meantime, what they do is, in order for a long journey to, say, to Mars or something, and if you're going to go there, which is one of the objectives of the Starship, you initially send these fuel tanks in orbit around the Earth. Once you've got enough of them, you then sort of embark on the journey to Mars. And over there, you might be able to even have sufficient machinery that you have taken on as cargo to capture the fuel from the carbon dioxide in Mars and thereby come back after that. So that's the plan. That's still being in the process of getting that Starship underway. Now, one of the things that as soon as the Starship is ready for in this year probably, and maybe the start of next year or next year, he's going to send about these people, all the artists, all this the common people, as it were, the creative people, on a journey to the moon, so that they can have a ride in the Starship, just circle the moon and come back. So when they come back, they'll have that experience of being able to sort of, look at it from their perspective as to what this all means. Now, this is the thing I told you about. Once the launcher launches it, the rocket, the tank gets into orbit, and and here you accumulate those tanks around the orbit, and then the spaceship then sort of gets fueled and then goes ahead to Mars there. Now, this is just a little picture about some other companies doing the same thing, but they're not that successful. So you can just say that SpaceX is the one that's leading and working very closely with NASA. So Mars mission, he's got this, not only is he thinking about Mars, he's thinking about Earth as well. Once the Starship is ready, it can carry up to 1,000 people to any part of the world, and they can land on the vertically land like that on the pad there on the sea. So you don't have to build big airports and runways and this, that, or the other, and can carry humongous. And of course, the speed is such that you can go here. Flight time is 39 minutes to go to Shanghai from there. Half the world across, you can get there in half an hour. So you can see the whole sort of mode of transportation is changing. Carries this amount of payload. And of course, with that sort of idea of going to Mars, thinking about taking, making a colony there. This is what is going to preserve humanity in the future. Even if for some foolish reason, somebody presses the button or whatever on Earth, humankind can survive. Solar City is something that is, of course, very much not very much in the news because the batteries are starting to sort of make their way into something called power wall. So once you capture the solar energy from the roof, and the tiles are also like solar cells, they can be retained in the power wall there. In the next picture, perhaps, and you can see the electricity comes down, gets stored, any excess can be fed back into the grid. There's the roof tiles being put in there. This is what they look like, and this is the power wall that will store the battery, the energy, which you can do whatever you want at home. And this is the very clean type of solution. Solar City, yeah, it's now part of actually Tesla, because Tesla is really surging ahead, not just on the car front, but on the production of batteries, and of course, batteries to do with Solar City and for homes as well. This is the power wall. Of course, he's working with the other companies as well to deliver, because there's going to be so much demand for batteries that Panasonic and other companies are also, LG, they are going to be giving him the extra battery power that he needs, because the demand is so humongous. Okay, what's a Starlink? Now, because SpaceX is able to use reusable rockets, it can put satellites. Now, you need to put lots of satellites which are low orbit and not the geocentric. I'll show you what I mean by that. Let me go to that picture here. Here we are. This is the picture which tells you about the high orbit. This is the low orbit, and this is the medium one. The high orbit, the geocentric one, the very high one, That takes, that's about 20, 30, 20,000 miles up there. And therefore, if the signal has to go from, Earth to back to up there and back again, it gives what is called latency, which means that it's a delay and not very satisfactory. A low Earth orbit here means that you can get it immediately. So you have instantaneous communication. It's as if you're communicating over optic fiber. And this is the intermediate one. So he's going to be putting these medium and low Earth orbit satellites in a type of a grid like this, all circling the Earth. And for putting so many of them, I think 40,000 of them, he needs rocket power, which is cheap. And that's what he's developing. And once you have that satellites in place, all you have to do is to have a dish like this. You can put it in the balcony, connect it to your computer, and have it, in fact, powered through the Powerwall or the battery that you may have with it. So I'm going to rush, and the cost is going to be quite affordable. At the moment, it's going through what is called a beta testing that's happening in North America. And they've been charged about $100 per month for the bandwidth that they're being offered. Yeah, well, with the battery sort of Teslas coming in, you're going to be saving enormous amount of fuel. You see that currently one is spending about $2,000 on gasoline. And that's just for ordinary cars. For larger cars, it's even more so, like trucks and so on. So you can see the amount of carbon you can cut down if you get rid of all that. Okay, now in addition to these Tesla cars that we can drive around, his long-term plan is to have self-driving cars. And what self-driving means is like Uber, but without a driver. So if you want to go anywhere, in the future, you don't need to own a car. You can just ring up this number, a little taxi, robo taxi will come, pick you up, take you to a destination, and that's it. And you then call it back again to return home. So it's going to be a society with no ownership of cars, perhaps, in the future. Now, as far as the spread of EVs are concerned, that's electric vehicles, you can see at the moment, it's only the percentage in terms of, at the moment, 2023, this is the penetration in the market, 14% for China, in fact, which is leading. Europe is down here at about less than 10%. But by 2040, we are going to be having better sort of penetration here. You can see it's in the high sort of 60s, 70s, 80s. And the green is the rest of the world here. So rest of the world is pretty sort of still, behind, but they'll catch up here to even 40, 50% mark here. Now, these are the type of vehicles it's already producing. And they seem to be catering to all the markets. This Tesla 3 and Tesla sort of Y, they're the biggest sort of the cars. He's coming up with a truck here and these long trucks, which are also automotive self-driving. This is a robo-taxi. Now, this is Neuralink. This is these are the things that are going to our brain. And if they go into they are even thinner than the hair. So they can go into the hair and into the head, into the brain and pick up signals. So that's what he's working on, and that's making headway with the help of these Dorothy, Gertrude, and Joyce. These are little pigs who's been experimented on. They've had the insertions of those Neuralink thing, and they have been taken out and they're back to normal. So there's no harm done to them at all. That's a little bus. And the bus is going to be so cheap that the cost of ferrying passengers will be like 1 cent per passenger per mile. Now, this is the hyperlink. This is the connectivity through the tunnels underneath. He's got these machines that he's going to go. And they're already, connecting, places in Vegas and so on. I'm going to rush through that because I want to This is the type of hyperloop thing that they have in mind. Goes very, very high speeds and with no pollution either. Now, basically, Tesla stock market has responded very well to it. I think yesterday it went across the 700 mark. So you can see just in the space of 1 year, it has gone from this value to this value, nearly 700, to a value from $83 to about $700. So the market is receiving it very well. So, a moment so that I can leave time for Q&A. I'm sorry that we had that initial trouble. Stop sharing screen now. Yeah, I think I think I'll have to unmute everybody. I think you'll have to unmute yourselves because I don't have that option for muting all of them.
Yeah, they can all unmute. There's a chat here, Shafeeq. David Shamash asks, first of all, has global warming got anything to do with your talk today, which is on technology? And what will technology do for global warming?
Well, the type of technology that is being worked on is the one that is not dependent on fossil fuels at all. Nor oil, nor gas, nothing of that sort, no coal. But it is based on having to develop batteries which are lithium based. And lithium is plentiful, available, and you get the lithium out with the very type of very good technology that is not going to be polluting. And that is the secret of delivering energy storage units at a very little cost and very little pollution.
Has he managed to do those batteries yet?
Well, the processes that are being worked on to take out the lithium, I think one of the biggest repositories of lithium is in Bolivia. They've got a whole sort of sea of that, but the type of technology that they're using it is very long in duration. But I think the University of Texas has come up with processes that are going to be very, very sort of cut down on the process of having to retrieve that lithium in a much more economical and also less polluted way. It's a process which I think something called a company called Energy X is working on, and I think we will have that soon coming our way.
Because it's a little bit like research and little bits, and then you have to gear up quite quickly. It's the same as the vaccinations, that we have this gap between sort of what is essentially a research project to being able to make it widespread use. And I'm just not sure whether we have time for that.
Absolutely right. Very good question, because that is what Elon Musk was saying as well. He said we have a lot of things in the labs that have worked, but to put it into mass production is much more difficult, he says. But being an engineer, he has a bent of mind of solving problems. And because he's also had a background in physics, he's able to look at very fundamentally what are the issues involved. So he is got the right background to be able to deliver, I think, and that's why I consider him to be so successful, because he's able to deliver that vision that he's propounding to all of us. And I have great faith in him, as you might have gathered by now from all the talks that I have done.
Yeah, we got it.
Good. Yeah, George, you were saying something?
Sorry, you're muted, George.
George, you have to unmute yourself.
No, I was just listening, Shafeeq. Always very interesting to hear what you have to say.
Oh, I thought you were asking something.
No.
Ron, do you want to ask something?
Yes. At one time, they were working on giant mirrors to reflect the sunshine to stop the Earth warming up. What happened to that trial?
Somebody was trying to stop the sunshine?
Yes, they're going to put giant mirrors into space to reflect the sunshine away from the Earth.
Yeah, I think there have been a number of ideas which I don't think have really materialized, because I don't think it had the full backing of any reasonably good engineers of a sort. Because at the end of the day, the idea needs to be translated, and that translation is where the problem comes in. So I think that's why it didn't come about, I think.
Thank you.
Pam,
Pam?
sorry, you're muted, Pam.
I know.
Oh, Pam, you were going to say something. You have to unmute yourself. You're muted at the moment. Pamela, you are muted. You have to unmute yourself. Okay, now you're okay. Go ahead.
Okay, I just wondered if the power walls could be fitted into.
You've lost the audio again. Could you put the audio on?
Oh,
You wanted a power wall? Oh, no, you're back again to your mute. No, you're back on mute again, Pam.
Her question on the chat is whether power walls could be put into our homes.
Yes, that's where it's going to go. Because already with the battery that has been produced, they're already available in USA. I think the target was to have something like 5,000 homes already put up with roofs and the power walls and everything. And I think they're going to sort of really scale up very quickly. I think with the amount of money that they have in fact raised in the stock market, in the recent offerings, they raised, but 2 months ago, they raised 5 billion. And then recently another 5 billion, which means they increased the stock. But then the public is buying it up. So that stash of money they've got, and they're going to ramp up, I think, a lot of this production.
Because I know in a related way, they had these rather fancy roof tiles that would solar panels effectively, but not ugly. And they've been sort of advertised and on the website for about 3 years, and nothing much has moved. I'm not quite sure where the holdup is there.
Yeah, I think they had the holdup as far as the installation and subsequent costing of that. But since that time, that company, which was called Solar City, was then taken over by Tesla. And now that Elon Musk has got the full control, he's able to, I think, ramp it up quickly. Yeah. Crystal clear, I see.
Yeah, we're just all hopeful.
Well, the thing that I find is that because it's the first day of the year, we need a good narrative, because we've been hit by so many bad narratives, so many bad political decisions, so many bad sort of, politics or whatever. We need a narrative which I think lifts our hopes up. And I think this is a narrative that we can look to and believe that is going to come our way. It's no ifs and buts about it. Of course, you're going to have these, politicians putting all sorts of blocks of one sort or another. But sooner or later, I think, the solution will come through.
Okay, so that's
your lifetime. It won't take long, I don't think, because Starlink, I think, is going to be available this year to some of the people in other parts of the world. Maybe starting with even UK perhaps next year. And I'll be one of the first people to get Starlink, because I'm so fed up with Virgin and with all the other service providers that have been doing the job.
Okay. Maybe with that cheerful
I've got one.
note.
I've got one.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, George?
And Shafeeq, who's the builders going to be on? Are they going to employ Wimpeys or McAlpine or?
You need to put the roof tiles.
No, when they get up to the planets, up to Mars and.
Oh, once they get to Mars, you mean, or to the moon? I think the moon is going to be the first base.
Yeah. So they have to have the builders.
Yeah, builders. Yeah. Well, we've got these a lot of these. You see, with technology, what you're going to be able to do is to automate a lot of functions that human beings can do, and only have human do the things that they're best at.
Right.
So that is the future is going to be done a lot of manual labor through, I think, robots.
Ah.
And the humans can enjoy a UBI, Universal Basic Income, and do all the creative things that they're meant to do.
I hope so, Sophie. Anyway, good luck to everybody and Happy New Year to everyone on the line. Let's
Thank
hope it's
you,
better
George.
than last year.
Yeah,
Sophie, lovely talk. Thank you very much.
thank you, George.
Inspiring talk, Shafeeq. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes.
Thank you
Happy
all
New
for.
Year.
I had to rush through that because it,
Thank
there's
you.
lost a bit of time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
At least,
Bye.
at least we've got an optimist amongst us. Thank you, Shafeeq.
Oh,
Thank
welcome.
you.
you.
Welcome. I'm glad I was able to do that as a start of the first day of the year.
But I think it's all for our grandchildren, not for us, I'm afraid.
Well, no, some of these things are going to be coming fairly rapidly in our direction. As you can see, even the pandemic has accelerated the use of technology. Now, this Zoom that we're doing, we wouldn't have done it at all if it wasn't for the fact that we were under lockdown.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely amazing and a real revelation. Thank you very, very much.
Oh, yeah. What we need is the good sort of vision and a good sort of hope, and I think all the good vibes make the difference. I think
All the good what? Make all the difference?
vibrations, vibes, the vibes, the vibrations, good vibrations. You know,
Oh, vibration. Okay. I thought you said wives for a minute, and I was going to say, what?
Yes, they they say that behind every great man there is an even greater woman.
Yeah, but I mean, that's marriage and women. You know, you've.
I heard on the radio just yesterday that women are better at most things, and they even do. They're better academically at school and at colleges everywhere.
Yeah, they're getting worried about it, aren't they?
Yeah, and there's also this. I think it was Pam who mentioned it. The fact that there is a conjunction taking place, where there is going to be for Saturn and Jupiter, which brings in a new era, which is going to put patriarchy at the back and have matriarchy come in the front.
Fantastic. It's about time. I'm teasing, Shafeeq.
Well, I'm behind you on that, Julie.
Okay, I'm going to close down now. Bye, everybody. Enjoy your weekend.
Bye.
And the new term starts on Monday.
Oh,
Bye. Thank you.
thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Okay, bye, Shafeeq. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie.